Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to my channel, and happy May the 4th. So, last year, I remember making a video review on the movie Star Wars 3 Revenge of the Sith. So, this year, to keep up with that theme, I've decided to review the video game of Star Wars Episode 3. That game did not disappoint, and I actually got way more than I bargained for, too. So, I originally thought that the game was just going to be like a bare-bones beat-em-up fighting game that loosely followed the events of the movie, and I was partially right in that it kind of was a bit of a loose adaptation, because there are a ton of scenes where there's a ton of scenes that are from the movie that are just extended out into entire levels. Like, I believe the second mission is actually partially based on a deleted scene where Obi-Wan and Anakin they escape Grievous and get into like the fuel tanks or something like that. Like, that they took pretty much a deleted scene and they expanded it into an entire level into the game. That scene where Mace Windu is about to kill Palpatine, but Anakin cuts off his hand. They actually extend that into an entire like boss fight, which that was pretty cool. The Order 66 scene, that's extended to, I think, 2, possibly even 3 levels, including one of them being a boss fight with Sindralig, where I think he was in the movie, but as part of that hologram that Obi-Wan was seeing where Anakin was like just slicing up the Jedi, they expand his role into being a full-on boss fight. Speaking of Sindralig, right before you fight him, you fight his apprentice, Sarah, and if my memory is correct, she was originally from the expanded universe. I remember seeing one comic where she and Anakin teamed up on this one starship. But it was really cool to see that character again, because it's probably been at least 10 years since I've read that comic. But it was really cool how the game like really extended on nearly every fight scene from the movie. The boss fights, speaking of those, are really great. It actually feels pretty challenging. Well, actually, that's not exactly true, because if you find a little hack like I did, where all you have to do is just like block with your lightsaber when they're attacking, and then the moment they stop, like, you're free to hit them. The fights do get easy, but if you don't just spam the block like I did, the fights can get like actually difficult and challenging. But as long as you block, you'll be fine. So aside from that, I thought that was just gonna be it for the game, like just a campaign and that's it. I was wrong. There's this multiplayer segment that I guess is sort of similar to fighting games like Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter, where you get to choose your lightsaber duelist. There's not a lot of characters. I think there's like 10 or 12. The ones that I can remember off the top of my head were Anakin, Obi-Wan, Count Dooku, Grievous, Mace Windu, Sarah, Sindralig, and Darth Vader, and Old Ben Kenobi. And I'll get to that in a second. There are these bonus missions that you can do once you finish the story. The first one is where you get to play as the Magma Guards, where you're just fighting clone troopers, some of them droids, and then a crab droid. who is one of the recurring bosses on Utapau. The second one is where you actually get to play as General Grievous, and you're taking out clone troopers and droids. And then there's a boss fight with Old Ben Kenobi at the end, which, going back to what I said earlier, like, just hold block, and then once he's done attacking, like, you attack him, and like, you can't block it. So that was fun. A little bit challenging because as Grievous, you can't use the Force Heal ability. Oh, by the way, after every level, the more experience you gain, you can use that to upgrade all your skills, one of which is Force Heal that you can use. Enemies can also Force Heal, but they do it rarely. The third mission... Oh yeah, the third mission was just basically playing Anakin Skywalker on Mustafar, and it's basically a game of the floor is lava. That's really what it is, because that's the only mission in the entire game where you can actually fall off a ledge and fall to your death. So that one was okay. I didn't really care for it though. The fourth mini game bonus mission is actually my favorite one because you actually get to play as Yoda in the Jedi Temple and you're fighting clone troopers. And it's very fun because you get to go through like all the different variations of the clones in the game. Like, you got the standard clone troopers, you got the heavy shock troopers with the miniguns, you got the flame troopers who also go on jetpacks, which I like to think that they reused that concept for the Force Unleashed games, even though the ones in the Episode 3 game are like a lot bulkier. But then you got the troopers who like have actual freaking rocket launchers. And then you got the final variation that show up at the end, which are my favorite of them, the clone assassins, where they can actually dodge all of your strikes if you're not being smart. Like, and the way they're animated, like just moving around. But basically, it's like the game developers saw the Matrix and how Neo was dodging bullets, and they thought, let's have an enemy who can do that but with lightsabers. And those are actually probably some of my favorite enemies in the game, because those are the only ones. Those and the Magma Guards are the only enemies in the game who are not boss fights and can actually give you a hard time. Because the Clone Assassins and the Magma Guards, they can actually dodge your hits. Like, instead of like just blocking them with those Electro Staffs and their knives, like they can actually move out of the way of the lightsaber, which can get really frustrating at times, but it can also get really fun. Because it's like you finally get a challenge instead of the usual cannon fodder, and that's always cool. And then the final bonus mission is actually a boss fight with Old Ben Kenobi. Like, it takes you back to the original Star Wars: A New Hope. You're playing as Darth Vader, you're fighting Old Ben Kenobi. Meanwhile, in the background are the stormtroopers that are trying to capture like Han, Luke, Leia as they're trying to get on the Millennium Falcon. And that was just so fun to play. Like, Old Ben and Darth Vader, like, they still have the moves of Anakin and Obi-Wan in their prime, and yet you're basically replaying the climactic battle of A New Hope. And that was awesome. That made me love the game even more. But what's very cool is the way that you unlock the final bonus mission, the one that takes place on the Death Star, where you're playing as Darth Vader and killing Old Ben, is the developers did this really cool thing where after the credits roll, after defeating Anakin as Obi-Wan on Mustafar, There's actually also this secret story mission where you actually get to play as Anakin Skywalker in the same mission, same cutscenes and everything, but you're playing from Anakin's perspective. And what's really cool about that is if you defeat Obi-Wan in that story mission, they actually play an alternate ending from that wasn't in the previous mission, where instead of Obi-Wan cutting off Anakin's limbs like he did in the movie, Anakin actually flips over Obi-Wan and then kills him. So then he leaves Obi-Wan for dead. He meets up with the Emperor on the landing pad. Palpatine gives him a new lightsaber, and then Anakin just straight up murders Palpatine and declares that the Empire is his and his alone. And that was always pretty cool as a way to kind of like balance out the game with playing as both Obi-Wan and Anakin. And also a really fun way in unlocking the final bonus mission. So, there's really not much else that I can say about this game, at least that was all the positive things I had. I only have 2 negative things about this game. And the first one, I'm not entirely sure if it's the game's fault. It might be my television, or it might be the fact that I'm playing it on an Xbox One. But every time that I play the game, and like there's no way to reset this unfortunately, every time I play the game, the video settings, like the sides of the screen are always cropped out. Like the best way to describe this is like with the Snyder Cut movie, where they had the black bars on the sides instead of the top and bottom. Yeah, that's what it looks like for my game. Like the video that I'm showing now, I did nothing to edit it. I didn't even except for a little bit of color correction. But aside from that, like I did nothing with the format or the height or the width. That's how it looks on my actual screen, unfortunately. But I don't think there's anything I can do with that, because every time I went into the video settings, there was nothing about like widening your screen or anything. So unfortunately, there's not much I can do with that. It really sucks for the cutscenes, because the cutscenes, they also do take out those the top and bottom with the black bars like they do in the movies. So then the screen shrinks even more. But there's nothing I can do about that, sadly. And then the only other negative that I have with it is, to me at least, the deaths feel tame. And I guess what I mean by that is, I guess they're like both tame and they're also repetitive. Like pretty much every death scene in the game, save for Sarah's, is just the same thing of just stabbing them in the chest. Like it happened with Dooku. Obi-Wan did it with Grievous. It happens with Mace Windu and Sindralig. And Anakin does it to both Obi-Wan and Emperor Palpatine in the alternate ending. And I just never really understood that. Oh, and by the way, for Sarah, Anakin doesn't stab her, but he does have like a part of a statue or a Jedi Temple column just crush her to death. So she basically dies a Disney death. And I don't want this to sound like nitpicking, but maybe it's just because that like I'm a fan of horror movies and slashers, but I kind of wish that they just used the cinematics from the actual movie. Like they already used pretty much every other cinematic to like as an intro and an outro of the game, and like the death scenes were pretty cool in the movie. Like instead of stabbings, like Dooku got his head sliced off with both his and Anakin's lightsaber. General Grievous got got freaking blown up by Obi-Wan. Mace Windu, he got his hand cut off, and then he got electrocuted by Palpatine. Even Sindralig in that hologram, as I recall, Anakin did this like fancy lightsaber slash or something on him instead of just a simple stab to the chest. And like, even when they even show a cinematic in the Death Star bonus mission of Darth Vader killing Obi-Wan, and every time I look at it now, it looks like Darth Vader is like aiming for Obi-Wan's head, even though Obi-Wan, of course, like vanishes, but it looks like he's aiming for the head whenever he swings that. Like, go back and watch that scene, like, because Darth Vader doesn't do a simple stab. But I don't know. Maybe I'm looking too much into this, or maybe they thought that it was too brutal for a game, even though it was rated T. And I perfectly recall General Grievous saying some pretty brutal stuff during his boss fight. Like, he says to Obi-Wan at the beginning of his fight, like, I don't know, I think it would have been cool if they actually showed the original cinematics for the death scenes instead of just simple stabs to the gut. And since they did about 20 times in the game, it just felt boring. So basically, have some variety with the deaths. Oh, and one last thing that I thought was really funny, though. During the Yoda bonus mission where you're fighting the clones, you can actually hear him saying some of the lyrics to the Queen song "Another One Bites the Dust," and he doesn't even like say it in his Yoda voice. Like, he just says it like, he just says it his regular in just a regular voice, which I find that to be hilarious. But other than that, those were just my thoughts on the Star Wars Episode 3 video game. Overall, it's a great game. Even the stuff that I mentioned that I didn't exactly like, they do not overshadow the game by any means. I just feel like the simple stomach stabbings get a little bit boring and repetitive every now and then, and it sucks that I can't change the video settings, but there's nothing I can do about that. So other than that, it was a really great game. I'd highly recommend you guys to play it. It's a really huge blast from the past. Like, if you love the original Star Wars Battlefront games and you love like Star Wars Republic Commando, you'll really enjoy this game. Like, even if you're not a Star Wars fan and you just like fighting games, like, you'll find some entertainment out of this one. So definitely pick it up from the Xbox store if you have an Xbox. But that's it for me. May the Force be with you.